Thank you for tuning in to TalkWad.com, the world's fastest growing internet radio network. Please check out all the other great shows on www.talkwad.com.
Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world, going home to see my God. No more weeping and wailing, no more weeping and wailing, no more weeping and wailing, going home to see my God, going home to see my God. Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world.
Hi there,
Troubles of the world.
welcome to Right at 5. This is your host, Mona Lisa, and I have a special co-host guest with me today, Stacey Rush.
Hello.
And we have a guest today that is calling us from New York, and he is amazing. I connected with him on Facebook a while ago. His name is Ngoma Hill. Hi there.
Hey there, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
First of all, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to be on the show. I know you're a busy man.
Thanks for having me.
And basically how the show works is it's an hour all about you and how amazing you are. And I'm just going to throw some questions out at you and let you run with it. And we want to make sure that we can get all the information out there to people about how to get your CD and all the wonderful things you're doing out there. So let's start off by tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Ngoma. I'm a spoken word artist, a performance poet, singer, songwriter. I've been doing this about 40 or 50 years or so. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, but I've been living in New York City since 1979. And I write poetry and song that raises social and political consciousness. I try to give people something that they can think about. I try to point out the contradictions that are going on in society. So a lot of my work is somewhat controversial, but I kind of do it on purpose because my main purpose in writing is to make people think. So I don't write about too much about my personal feelings or whatever. You won't hear me reading about my love life or how I was raised, because it's not so extraordinary outside of the box of how people are. So I try to write about other things. I try to give people information about things that they may not necessarily know about or hear about or read about or see on TV or see in the newspapers, and I try to point out the contradiction. So that's kind of like what my writing is about.
And there's a lot of that we don't know about and we're not informed about out there, right?
Yeah, quite a bit.
So yeah, when I first heard you, I was actually led to you by a friend on Facebook, and I heard your work. I saw you playing your violin, and I was really just completely and totally amazed with what I was hearing. And I had contacted you at that time, and I was like, I got to have him on the show because you are definitely a pioneer in what you're doing, and there are those of us out there that look at what you do and kind of emulate and follow. I think it's really great that you are bringing these different things to the awareness of the people, and to me, poetry is the best way to do it.
Yes, I've always felt that in different times and seasons in the world, if you really want to know what's going on, check out the poetry, check out the art, and check out the music, because the media tends to not be so truthful.
Definitely.
Well, that's true too. But one of the real problems is that you don't get too much of that on mainstream TV, on radio, and newspapers either. So although a lot of what's going on in the world you never hear about, it's not on TV. If you listen to the regular media or listen to regular radio, all you get is people degrading women and talking about drugs and sex and so on and so forth, but they don't talk about what's going on really in the world besides what's going on in their own little neighborhoods. And they don't connect the dots so that you. There's nothing wrong with people talking about why, but about what's going on, but people seldom talk about why this is going on, and then they seldom give alternatives to what's going on. So
I agree. Fortunately, with social media and the internet and the other things we have available out there to us, we have more of an ability to educate ourselves about these things.
well, that's true.
Yeah. So it's when I listen to your work, there's a message in there of, not only are your words very powerful and compelling, but there's a solution in there too. It's like, okay, this is what's going on, and maybe this is what we as humanity, as a people, should do. Do you have a specific writing process that you have?
Well, my writing process is ongoing. In order to be a good artist, I think it's like filling up a pitcher. First, you have to fill up the pitcher, and then you can pour it out. If you don't put anything in it, then you don't get anything out of it. So my process involves a lot of various means. One is like reading a lot. One is like reading, checking out alternative news sources so I know what's going on in the world. One is travel and being able to talk to people from different backgrounds to find out what's going on in the world. And then I kind of process all of the things that I put into it, into my head there. And then when I go to write, then I write. A lot of people do write poems over and over and over and over again, but I don't. I just channel what the Most High pushes through me, and most of the time it doesn't take much editing or whatever. Usually it might not take me more than like 5 or 10 minutes to write a piece. And the piece has to find its own voice, and the only way I can have the piece find its voice is by performing it. After I get a rhythm for how I'm going to perform it, then I try to figure out because I don't just do poetry by itself. I usually try to fuse music with it because I was a musician before I was a poet.
And that's
try to figure out what music I think will go with it, because a lot of the things that I say are really harsh, and I think sometimes I need to sweeten it up a little bit so people will like to listen to it. So I give it a little.
That makes sense, and it does.
Yeah.
I tell you, the violin. I love strings anyway, cello, violin, and you play that with an unbelievable amount of passion, and it speaks. So have you always play? I mean, how long have you been playing the violin?
If I tell you that, then you know how old I am. I've been playing violin since I was 7. I started taking violin, I think, at 7.
And an interesting choice of instrument. Why the violin?
I was at a church program, and a young lady in the church played a violin solo, and I really liked the way it sounded. So I went to my parents and I said, look, I want to learn how to play that. So they said, okay, cool. So first of all, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. Although I live in New York now, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and at that time it was a little difficult to find a violin teacher. So first it took them about 6 months or 7 months to find a violin teacher, and then it took another 2 or 3 months to find a violin that was small enough for me to play it because I was a little kid.
Right.
And then I started taking lessons. I play about 10 different instruments, and violin was the first instrument.
Wow, very diverse.
I studied, classical violin. I studied classical music. I was a music major. I attended Virginia State University, where I was an instrumental music major. So I studied all the classics and stuff like that. But when I decided what I really wanted to do with music, it wasn't European classical music. So what I had to do was go about unlearning half of the stuff that I had learned and develop my own sound and develop my own ear.
Wow.
Because European, because I was beginning to try to do a lot of improvisation and stuff. I'm not reading stuff off the page, so it's a different process.
That's a heck of a thing to do with a violin. It's not like, the guitar or drums, or where you can just kind of go nuts. And I mean, a violin's a very Very
That's a little
specific.
tricky. I get people that come up to me and say, "Yeah, I really love the way you play. I just bought a violin last week, and now I'm gonna try to play it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, did you have a teacher?" And they're like, "No." I said, "Well, good luck with that."
Yeah, I mean, it is a beautiful violin, a beautiful sound. And to me, the violin is one of those instruments that really kind of reaches into your soul.
Yeah, that's a good
Mm,
choice. Like you said, you wanted to sweeten it up a little because people
yeah,
tend to think, violin, it's all flowing and beautiful. And it's been said, even with educating children, when you mix music in with what you're teaching them, sometimes it helps them to absorb it better. And so that's
yeah,
wonderful
a
to
little
take
rhythm
the
too.
instrument.
But music will sound even more than words. Works on your chakra system, and
Hmm.
so depending upon what notes you're playing, it opens various chakras.
Right.
So it kind of grabs you in various ways. That's one of the reasons I use the yadaki or the didgeridoo,
Hmm.
because it's a healing sounding instrument and opens your chakras. So once I
Hmm.
can get you open, then I can put some stuff in your head.
Okay.
I have a digi sitting in the corner of my room, and I've tried to play it a couple times, and I'm like, gosh, I sound like, it doesn't sound right. And I went to your
Uh,
video, and I was watching you play it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, but like anything else, it's practice, right?
well, yeah, it takes a bit of practice, but traditionally in Aboriginal culture, women don't play didgeridoo.
Oh,
Oh.
oops.
Um, I've heard rumors. I don't know whether it's really true or not, that actually it's not healthy for them to play it because the vibration bothers their reproductive system. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what
Wow.
I've heard.
Okay. Well, but that's a good deterrent for women.
Okay, you don't want no more children? Play the digi.
You know, but a didgeridoo is not really a difficult instrument to play because you don't have to learn any fingering or anything. Once you learn how to make the sound that it does, and once you learn how to the sound, then the next thing is playing it enough for your cheeks to develop so they have strength enough for you to circular breathe. And once you learn that, it's very simple. But it took me like about close to 2 years to learn how to circular breathe. I
Wow.
don't have a problem getting the sound out of it because I played baritone horn in high school and in college, and it's the same kind of concept as playing a brass instrument, except the embouchure is much looser. So I didn't have a problem getting the sound out of it, but trying to learn how to circular breathe was a whole different trick.
Wow, that's dedication. I'm one of those people is like, it's not working. Put it in the corner.
Okay, well.
um, I know it's terrible. I
I
keep,
guess, I guess you have a lot of instruments in your corner.
yeah,
Yeah.
I keep picking up the guitar and going, I can do this, but I can't get a song out of it yet. So I was like, maybe I can't do this, but I do keep going back to it. So I
Well,
am
that's good.
dedicated.
Yeah, you
Um,
have to go back to it. That's the only
yeah.
way you can do it. But guitar's not that difficult because you can get a chord book and how to make chords and not finger pick, and
She's got a
you
lot
can
of
kind of do
those
that.
hanging on the wall.
Yeah. I'm learning the chords, and it's like I've been told, once you learn 3 chords, you can play pretty much every song. So
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah. So I'm looking through your bio that I asked you to send me, which has some really amazing stuff, and I would need about 3 or 4 shows to really get out there everything you do. And as the host of this show, and I'm sure Stacy agrees with me, we thank you very much for everything you're doing to get the word out there.
Very grateful.
Thank you.
But I'm going to touch on a few things here. And of course, one of the first things that jumped out at me, because I am a poet, you put in here that you were featured in the PBS spoken word documentary, The Apro Poets with Allen Ginsberg. Please tell me about that.
It was kind of interesting thing. The woman that produced it was doing a program for her master thesis in school, and she put this program together, and she wanted poets, and she auditioned people, and she liked what I did, and then she called me in the studio and chatted, and that was that. But the interesting thing about it is the fact that Ginsberg was in it. But I didn't get to meet him or anything. We didn't shoot it all at one time all together.
Right.
But one thing that was kind of interesting also was that was probably one of the last recordings of Ginsberg, because he passed maybe like a month or so after we did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I didn't get to meet him or see him. I mean, I wasn't there when they filmed him or anything.
but you shared that moment, that
Yes, that's
project.
true.
So that's really cool. It also says here that you hosted the slam at the Dr. Martin Luther King Festival of Social and Environmental Justice at
Yeah,
Yale
I've
University.
been hosting that for 18 years.
Tell us about that.
Yale puts on a festival for Dr. King's birthday. It's the Dr. Martin Luther King Festival of Environmental and Social Justice. It's a family festival, and it's free, and it goes on for 2 days. One of the events at it is the Poetry Slam. We chose to have a poetry slam to represent Dr. King's legacy of oration, because he was a speaker, but we wanted to make it more contemporary than having people do speeches.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to have a poetry slam where the poets do poetry only that raises social consciousness or talks about social justice or environmental justice. So it's an invitational slam. You can't just volunteer or come up to it or call me and say I want to be in it or whatnot. I comb various poetry spots for most of the year, and I choose poets that I think they represent what it is that we want to convey, and I invite them to come and they slam. I usually have I've had a lot of poets that have been on Def Jam, a lot of poets that have been in national competition and in national poetry slam competitions. So it's the kind of like the higher echelon of spoken word poetry, these poets that I invite, and they compete against each other. And there's like $1,000 first prize and a $500 second prize and a $200 third prize. And we've been doing it now for like about 18 years. Well, 17 years. This last January was the 17th year.
Wow, that's amazing. The slam is a whole new and emerging thing going on out there, right?
I don't know. It depends upon how you define new. It's been going on quite a while.
Yeah, new to the general population.
And probably new in appreciation. So many people even look
maybe
at
new in
poetry.
appreciation, but it started like around in the mid 80s or something. A guy named Mark Smith out of Chicago was trying to figure out a way to bring audiences to listen to poetry. He was hosting a place called the Green Mill in Chicago, and he started these poetry slams, and that's basically how they started. And then they spread all over the country. So now when they have the National Poetry Slam competition, they have teams, maybe like 80 teams from all over. They even brought people from foreign countries to participate in the nationals.
Does the Poetry Slam, as well as cause people to come to the Poetry Slam, does it also encourage poets to come forward?
They have various events, daytime events, that poets who are just attending them can come to and participate in it. But there's so many poets that come to compete that they also participate. They have workshops, performance workshops, open mics, workshops about being published, workshops that actually discuss the poetry. So yeah, it encourages a lot of people. And some people come who may not even be slam poets just to participate and be in the mix with all of the poets that are. So yeah, it's somewhat encouraging.
Well, I think. Go ahead.
Especially if you go to the cities where they have them. They have them all over the country. Usually on the East Coast one year and on the West Coast the following year. They go back and forth.
We just had a local poet, Liz Prisley, who goes by the name of Kali, that went to the Women of the World Poetry Slam in Minneapolis.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so she can't wait to talk to her so I can hear about her experience. But I think now would be a good time for us to take a break and play one of the tracks off of your CD, which is titled Poetry from a Smartphone. And we'll talk some more about that when we come back after the song.
All right, sounds good.
suffering roots shock since the tree of life was bulldozed. Lost, forever buried beneath concrete invisible, wandering like a lost soul trying to find its name. Battling with extinction, babbling on in Babylon, telling endless stories of the people and the places and all the faces that they've seen, both in this life and the past. For the door to the past leads into the future, so not to repeat the bitter with the sweet. Oh yes, 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 I remember sweet, like hot donuts from George's, or bean pies and fish sandwiches from the Muslim steak and take when you got the munchies. Schools at the crossroads, 125th and Lenox, from a stepladder, listening to Malcolm Garvey and Carlos Cook. Across from the Teresa Hotel where Fidel stayed, cause they wouldn't give him a room in the inn downtown. Kind of like Mary and Jesus, when the Lindy was the hop, before B was the bop, long before hip-hop. Maybe some numbers runners and a bootleg or two. Langston Renaissance, Claude McKay and Zora too. These sweet memories we bring to you, babbling on in Babylon, where Malcolm was assassinated at the Audubon. Summers filled with menacing, Order the Feather and Tapawingo, talent night at the Apollo, before boys were shipped overseas to fight old men's wars. Before the smack and the crack, buying the latest LP at Sekulu's record shack, checking out Miriam and Hugh grazing in the grass, when bad Thomas Sankara waved his pearl-handled pistol in the air at Harriet Tubman's school before he was assassinated. Yeah, we still stop through the Cotton Club. Duke's spirit still lives there. The late-night eat spot was Wells, where the chicken and waffles dwell. Long before IHOP got Christopher Columbo fever and discovered it, when African vendors lined 125 Street selling their wares, smiling and giving good greetings, incense and oil in the air. I'm just here bringing your memory back to black, yeah, babbling on in Babylon. Oh Harlem, oh Harlem, oh Harlem, my pen bleeds for you.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow, very thought-provoking, definitely. What inspired you to write that piece?
Well, I live in Harlem, and I had never written a piece about Harlem.
Okay.
So that was it. All of the poems on that particular album are part of the 30-30 challenge. In April, a lot of poets participate in what's called National Poetry Write 30-30 challenge to write a poem a day for 30 days.
Okay.
And I had reached a point where a lot of the pieces that I was performing, I had been performing for a while, and I put out like 6 CDs, and I said, it's time for something new. So I chose poems from the 30-30, and I decided to put them on the CD. But what basically was inspiring about that, well, I wanted somewhat to talk about gentrification, because I wanted to let people know what's going on in Harlem, and I wanted to represent Harlem because people weren't writing about Harlem, so I thought that would be a good opportunity.
So did you walk around and see these things, and is this where the
I live in Harlem.
Okay.
So I have to take a special trip.
kind of everyday stuff, huh?
So many things I participate. The Apollo is like up the street from me. I can walk to the Apollo from my house.
Okay. Okay.
Of course, all those things were very historic, so that's just knowledge you had gathered along the way as you was growing up, as well as what you've seen.
Yes.
That's so I'm curious, and I would love for you to share this with our listeners. Poetry from a Smartphone. Title came from?
A lot of poets are reading off of their smartphones these days. And since I was writing the work, I can't memorize it as fast as I write it, and I wanted to perform it. So I decided to call it Poetry from a Smartphone. I thought it was a little gimmick, and I could read the poems off my phone.
It's good. It's good. It definitely works.
You need a gimmick.
Yeah. Technology, you gotta love it.
Yeah.
So I also saw here in your bio, let's see, in December of 2011, you were initiated as a priest of Obatala in Ibadan, Nigeria. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was initiated as a priest of Obatala in Ibadan, Nigeria. I practice African traditional religions, and I was inspired and instructed to, through my studies and practices and readings that I should be initiated as a priest. So I went to Ibadan, Nigeria, where I spent a couple of weeks or more, where I was initiated as a priest. That's the quick answer.
How much traveling do you do?
Well, I work a 9-to-5 job, so I travel quite a bit, but not as much as I would like to. I've been a few places though. In 2009, I was a part of the Badalisha Poetry Exchange, where I spent 2 weeks in Cape Town, South Africa, gigging, doing workshops and performances as a part of the Badalisha Poetry Exchange. Early on, I've been performing, for about, since I was a little kid actually, but actually performing the kind of work that I do now for about 30 or 40 years. So I've toured the UK, and I did 5 cities in London. I was fortunate enough to be able to spend a month in the People's Republic of China. So,
Wow,
so
that's
that was
amazing.
back. That was way back in like around 83, 84.
Do you
My ex-wife and I had a group called Serious Business, and we performed contemporary freedom music for about from 1979 until about 1992 or 93. So we performed for some really prestigious kind of events, like the largest anti-nuclear protest in America for 1 million people in Central Park.
Wow.
And we've done labor rallies. So I performed in places like Madison Square Garden and the Felt Forum. But not just for a regular performance where you come to entertain people, but actually performing for workers and workers' rights. So
So you were just performing music back then, or were you performing poetry then?
I was performing music. It was freedom, contemporary freedom
Okay.
music.
So were you writing your poetry back then and just possibly not performing
I
it?
was writing my poetry
Okay.
then, but I wasn't really performing it that
Okay.
much. Just occasionally I would, do a poem someplace. But what happened was when the duo broke up and when the relationship broke up, I had to remake myself,
Okay.
So I said, okay.
Reinvent.
So I said, okay, I'm going to start doing this poetry. So
Okay.
I started doing the poetry. I was in a relationship with a sister that lives in Hamden, right next to New Haven. And we would go, she said, oh, you should go to some of these kind of poetry slams. I said, well, whatever. So I had some poetry that I've been writing over the years, and I started going to the poetry slams in New Haven. And after about a couple of months, I had won all of the slams that you could win in New
Oh,
Haven, and
wow.
I ended up being on the team to go to the National Poetry Competition.
So that made you think, ooh, maybe I got something here.
Yeah. Listen, my work. So I
Definitely.
continued to write and continued to perform and do stuff. And then I started adding the music to it because I was just doing the slam at that point. I hadn't added the music to it. So I said, wait a minute, I play all these instruments and stuff. I can't incorporate this and, really make it something special. So that's kind of what I did.
Do you feel that poetry is received, well, I'm sure it is, but did you notice when you went to different places that poetry is received in different ways?
Well, our culture is received in different ways anyway.
Right.
In Europe, it seems that people have more of a respect for what we do. We command larger audiences and larger fees. Here, people take a lot of what we do for granted.
Yes.
So it really depends upon where you are and what venue you're at. As far as the spoken word thing, since it's growing now, you find more and more people that appreciate it more. That's how come we could do things like Def Poetry Slam, Def Poetry Jam, which is pretty successful. But I think, I don't know, some of the stuff on Def Poetry Jam, I don't know if the rest of America was ready for it.
Yeah, it was.
It might not have been successful as it could have been, but I thought it was relatively successful. One of the pitfalls of it was that everybody thought that they could get on that poetry jam. They started writing a lot.
Right.
That wasn't good. But
No.
otherwise, I thought it was great just to be able to see poetry on mainstream television.
Yeah, it was. I was definitely a huge fan. I've got all the seasons on DVD, and I watch them repeatedly. And of course, I have my favorites that I've seen on the different episodes. And I like one to me, one of the huge success stories, so to speak, was Taylor Mali. Kind of took off because he found a niche, and I think with poetry.
Taylor Mali was pretty big before then.
Was he really? See, and that goes to show you, I didn't know anything, and I've been writing forever, and as have most of my friends, and I didn't know anything about him until he was on Def Poetry Jam.
Well, he was always in the top echelon of top 10 in the National Poetry Slam competition as early as like around the 90s, 95, 96, 97, 98. But the person that probably didn't really get the kind of play that they should, who was really tops, was Patricia Smith, who you may know about or may not know about. But what Def Poetry Jam did was that it gave a lot of people exposure.
Right.
And I think that was really good that they got that kind of exposure.
And I think
Taylor Mali was just one person.
Right.
I think it really gave exposure to like Suhair Hamad, who
Oh,
really
amazing.
taken off and done a couple of films and stuff like that. She's a pretty good friend of mine.
She's amazing.
The when they started Def Jam, one of the co-producers was a guy named Bruce George. He was kind of responsible for like kicking that off and going to Russell Simmons about it.
Uh-huh.
And I was one of the people that chose the people in the first round.
Wow.
We had a committee of people, and people auditioned. And we started auditions like at 8 o'clock, and we had people down the street and around the corner at 7 o'clock in the morning. We auditioned people from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night.
Wow.
It was like Poetry Idol, huh?
yeah, it was like that.
We need more of that. We need it to be back. And I think it's right now anyway, what I'm following is the awareness that poets are creating, like you do, about issues that are going on. One of the big ones right now that everybody's pretty much out there slamming about or open micing about is rape culture, domestic violence, things that go on in other countries, injustices. And I think poetry has an ability to create that awareness more so than any other written form. I mean, not many people are going to sit down and read a book about 300 pages about what's going on in another country or even what's going on in our country, because the attention span of the American people is pretty short these days.
Yeah.
So I think poetry is a hard and fast means of getting the message out there. People stop and listen because it is. And yes, you do have to soften it up at times with music or something, because it can be pretty hard hitting. What do you think about that?
I think it depends upon your purpose in writing, and why you're writing it, and who your audience is, what it is that you're trying to get over. Sometimes music gets in the way, but it's a difficult road. We live in such a commercial society that everything has to be kind of like have a gimmick or something, which is kind of unfortunate, because you can go to other places and poetry is just poetry. It's just read. You don't have to really do anything with it but perform it. But here in the United States, where people, like you say, where people have like 2-minute attention spans, you have to kind of like get all that information out quickly.
So in other countries, the poetry is more accepted for the words itself versus having to have music?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And well, it depends. It also depends on the audiences, whether the audiences are younger or not. For younger audiences, they want music because now they're accustomed to hip hop.
That's true. All the movies, that's all they do is hip hop.
Everybody wants to be entertained.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. I never even thought about
I'm
that.
not sure if that's bad or not, because I think your poetry should be entertaining also, shouldn't bore people to death, you know.
Right. Definitely not.
But you have to do something to keep their attention.
That's an interesting viewpoint. Just to throw this out there real quick for the listeners, I went on YouTube, and if you type in Ngoma's name, like stuff pops up. So, and
Yeah.
it's spelled Ngoma.
O-M-A.
And last name is Hill. But yeah, if you type that in, lots of stuff will come up. And I highly recommend that you do go on YouTube and see some of the stuff he does, because it not only are you powerful to listen to, and I ride around with the CD in my car, I have it on my iPod, and it's great, but seeing you in action, especially when you're playing the violin or the whatever it is it's impactful. I showed Stacy a little bit before we headed out to come over here, and she was grooving to it.
Well, great. I'm honored that you like it.
Yes, absolutely. And of course you're on Facebook again. Just CDs available on cdbaby.com, also available on iTunes.com.
Amazon too.
Amazon as well. I highly, highly, highly recommend that people out there purchase this CD, not only because I'm a huge advocate for supporting the arts, and we have to support each other, because unfortunately our government's not so big on supporting us anymore, either taking money away for other things like war. So to
an educated public is not what they're looking for.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
So coming across, someone like you with your caliber of work is always exciting to me, because it is something that teaches, and you've got those rhythms in there, and that beat going on, and you can't help it. We were listening to the CD on the way over here. It's like about a 25-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
So we were listening to it too, and that's kind of CD, when you put it in, you need to put the windows down.
Let everybody hear it.
So everybody can turn it up real loud, so when you're driving by, people are like, what's that? So it's incredible work, and I highly recommend that people take the opportunity to purchase it, and again, go on YouTube and get a taste of it, because I know once you do, you're going to want to buy the CD. I mean, it's a given. So we're going to go ahead and jump into a second piece off of the CD, and we'll talk some more about the process of writing when we come back.
All right, great.
This poem is free. This poem is free, but you may have paid to hear me read it. This poem is sovereign. It has no birth certificate. It doesn't give a damn that it has no form. This poem wasn't written for you. It wrote itself. This poem has no 3-minute rule. It wasn't written for the slam, and it doesn't give a damn about the score. This poem doesn't care that it is political, and this is an erotic reading. This poem refuses to be porn on paper. This poem doesn't care about your sex life unless you're taking it to bed. This poem has a complicated relationship with its 9 to 5. This poem doesn't care about Jesus. This poem wants to know why you turned your back to your ancestors to follow your oppressor's religion. This poem doesn't care if it pisses you off. It prides itself in controversy. This poem intends to trigger your critical thought. This poem thinks you should turn off the idiot box and read a book. This poem doesn't care about Kate and William, Bill and Hillary, Michelle and Barack, or Ben and bleeping Jerry, as far as that matters. This poem doesn't care about who you marry. Once the knot is tied, it's your problem, deal with it. This poem does not not care that it makes use of profanity. This poem thinks there's nothing more profane than poverty and wants to get paid. This poem is horny and wants to get laid. This poem is for adults only, not for your kids. This poem has arthritis and wants to move to Cali for medicinal weed. This poem is not the one written by Muta Baruka and won't go on and on and on and on in your mind. What happens in this poem stays in this poem. This poem is a bad mother. This poem is free.
Love
right.
it. That's my favorite. That's my favorite one on the CD. I love it. Stacy was sitting here, her head was going. She's like, I was waiting for you to get outside.
It's like you was grooving to it, but at the same time, it was just hitting you in the brain, like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
like, oh yeah,
wow. Yeah. You know, each year before I do the slam for Dr. King at the beginning of the year, I write a poem that talks about what's going on, like right this minute. Like, so if you don't mind, I think I'd like to read for you and the audience the poem that I wrote for this year.
Absolutely. Oh, that would be great.
Excellent.
Since I was initiated as an Obatala priest and I was given the name Osayemi, so I'm writing a series of poems called Lessons from the Book of Osayemi. So this one is now that 2012 is over. It's kind of like, you know, since people thought the end of the world was going to happen in 2012.
Yeah.
Listen, my people, remember the world didn't just start 2013 years ago when Africans knew who God was long before Europe's peons came along and brainwashed folk to believe that everything started with Jesus. Remember the concept of Sankofa, go back and get it, not just to when slavery started in America, but all the way back as far as Kemet. Now that 2012 is over, it's not the end of the world. I hope you figured out that the hip-hop on your TV and radio is only a commercial for bull sticks. And since the planet is still spinning, we still have time to get it right. All of the things that went wrong can still be corrected. So stop complaining and crying the blues about what should have happened and get busy. Just because there's a hole in the ozone layer and global warming is in progress doesn't mean that we should throw up our hands and give up. Just because conspiracy theorists say that the secret government wants us to give up our guns, be forcibly inoculated from man-made diseases, prepare for concentration camps, and submit to mass genocide, doesn't mean that we have to go for it. After all, it's only sick people with screwed up attitudes with their faces stuck in the sands of Facebook and Twitter, believing it's true because they saw it on their iPads that cause trouble, or those that are ignorant because they never read a book. So get a grip. But then again, there's a saying that when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. So riddle me this. What will you do when the rulers are the outlaws? Orwell said that the people will believe what the media tells them to believe. So listen when I tell you, it's not too late to save mankind. Hurricane Sandy was only the beginning. Find the off button on your gadgets. Shake hands with the person next to you. Relearn the art of conversation and seek the way to connect and cooperate. Rip that blindfold from your eyes. Reality is much more than you realize. Yes, I know that this is a rant. It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it. And I don't know about you, but I just can't take it anymore. I'm tired of all of the injustice in the world where the oppressed just mirror their oppressors. You ask why there's so much gun violence in our neighborhoods and schools, but never want to look at why there's so much gun violence in the world. U.S. drones and bombs kill children in third world countries. Meanwhile, Obama weeps. So put on your hip boots because I'm about to go in and get deep. First of all, check out the fact that everything is connected. Got us jumping from fiscal cliffs while the world's economy is crumbling faster than the stale biscuit that never reached the table in a food-challenged third-world country that your mother told you about as you complained about not liking broccoli. The scraps from the average table in these yet-to-be United States could feed a family in Indonesia for a week. So yes, I'm talking about exploitation and greed and people who lack resources to take care of their needs. Meanwhile, we spend more on war and prisons and education and squander money on smartphones or PlayStations made in sweatshops where the average worker's pay is less than $1 a day. So I'll bring you this information, otherwise you wouldn't bother to pay attention. Now let's seek a solution for global child prostitution. Wringing your hands crying, what happened to morality? $230 Nikes on your feet, while half the world has no food to eat. Pay attention to the ecology. Find a way to redistribute the economy. Show some concern for humankind. Meditate on freedom. Breathe in peace and harmony. Exhale discord and degradation. Reimagine your existence, a world without isms and schisms. Seek out the divine. Strive for oneness. Breathe in love and light. Maybe this time we can get it right. Listen to the wisdom of Wolfhawk Jaguar singing, every breath of life is a new beginning.
Ah. Woo, woo, woo! Yes. Oh my gosh. That was wow. What a ride.
Wow.
And did you write that in one sitting?
No, I took a little bit more.
Did you? Yeah. I was going to say.
Is that one on YouTube?
No, I don't think it is. I would have seen that. I would have had that
yeah.
all up in here.
I want to hear that again.
Holy cats.
Hear it again.
Yeah.
That was absolutely phenomenal. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I thank you so much for sharing that. And oh my gosh, I can't wait for the next CD. I'm so excited.
Well, see, I like education. I mean, some people don't like education, and you have to kind of throw it at them. But when I hear something like that, I want to go back and hear it again and digest what's being said.
And look it up. I want to look stuff up.
Me. Google. I'm Googling everything.
You can read it on Facebook.
I heard about it. It was I was already halfway through the month, so I couldn't do it because I've done the NaNoWriMo in November, write the novel in a month.
Oh, okay.
But I just caught on to the poetry thing about halfway through, so I'm definitely going to be doing it this year. I'm really pushing myself to meet that challenge. Because I want to go into a whole nother dimension with my poetry, because I think we are ever evolving as poets.
Yeah, and you spoke about doing what type of poetry depending.
Schools, and I've gotten the kids to write and to read more too.
Okay.
So,
yes.
yeah.
And that's another movement.
Yes.
That's really huge. Has been for a while. Of
Right.
way back now.
They're getting the children to write, making them pull their feelings and pulling their knowledge and what they think about things around them out of their self and write also.
Mm-hmm. But there are youth poetry slams and whatnot. They have a national slam competition every year.
I just saw and actually shared on my Facebook one of the poets for that, the girl that did the piece about. Yeah, there's some, and some of those young people are just like, where did they get it from? Where it's deep. It's really deep.
The group here in New York is called Urban Word, and they're really off the chain.
And that's the one we saw.
Okay, yes, one on YouTube. We saw young girl do a real strong poetry. I think it was about war and different things like that.
How women are affected by it. When I hear stuff like that coming from a young person, it's like, okay, you get it.
Yeah. A lot of them really do get it.
Yeah. And that's, I think
parents need to listen to them.
Yes, I do believe we need to give our youth a lot more credit than we do.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, one thing I find with poetry, I was talking to Mona about that on the way here, being an artist of any type, it allows you to vent what's going on inside of you, not hold it all in there. A lot of people have mental illnesses because they can't get out of them what's going on. And I know even psychologists, they ask different youth to journal. And out of journaling, sometimes you get poetry. So actually, it's beneficial for them to write poetry.
Yeah, it's a very good tool for that.
I know it's definitely my therapy.
Yeah. Lay on the couch and write a poem.
Write a poem. Something's bothering me. Write a poem.
I sometimes go to poetry events and listen to people event, and I say, you know, I think I should send you a bill for listening to that.
There is the poetry that you vent into your journal and never read on a stage.
Yeah.
And then there is the poetry that you vent because you want to get a message out there.
Right.
Across, right?
So, again, I want to let everybody know that they can get your CD on CD Baby, iTunes, Amazon. Check you out on Facebook, YouTube, and you know, like I said, I could do 2 or 3 shows on you because there's so much you've done and so many amazing things you bring out there, and you do inspire. You know, I've shared you with a lot of people, whether it be your CD, you know, I have my iPod and go, oh, listen to this, or send them a link to YouTube, and you definitely have a presence that commands that people, you know, listen, and that to me is like poetry in the nth degree and the poet in the nth degree.
Well, thank you very much.
So
I'm glad I can do that.
yeah.
My Facebook page is kind of filling up, so I have another page. It's called Ngoma's Not Your Average String Thing. So if you can't get on Ngoma Hill, which is the main one, my performance site is Ngoma's Not Your Average String Thing. NGOMA''S, Not Your Average String Thing.
And I'll have, as always, I'll have links and information on the Write at 5 page on Facebook. So, you know, click like so you can get this information on people.
Great.
Definitely follow. Everybody, you guys need to follow this man. He's a force to be reckoned with.
Well, I will be following now.
Yet another fan. I want to thank you again so very much for taking the time to be on the show. And I would love to have you back after you finish your next project. Just hit me up on Facebook and we'll definitely schedule you for round 2 because got to share you with the world, you know?
All right. I really do appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And it was wonderful meeting you.
It's wonderful meeting you too online.
All right.
I'm watching the show online as we're on you too. You know?
All right. Thank you.
So I get to see you, although you don't get to see
I
me.
know.
Well, I'm going to find you on Facebook and friend you. Of course, you probably have so many people there you can't remember everybody.
Right, that's true.
Definitely. Thank you again, and we will talk to you soon, and we wish you the best in all your endeavors.
Well, thank you very much. You take care. I wish you the best with the show too. It's wonderful to be able to have a, you know, an outlet for the work.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have somebody to, you know, allow that. So,
thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. So thanks for listening to Write at 5. Again, another amazing talent on the show. And we hope that you tune in next week. Thank you, Stacy, for sitting here with me.
It was wonderful.
And we'll catch you next week.
Be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world, going home to see my God. No more weeping and wailing, no more weeping and wailing, no more weeping and wailing, going home to see my God, going home to see my God.